Well, we had high school graduation last weekend in our town outside on the football field there at the high school. A tradition we began during COVID when we were social distancing, and it turned out to be more pleasant than cramming hundreds of people in a stifling hot gymnasium. So we've continued the practice. Now we sit outdoors late in the day when the sun is softening on a May evening and listen to the speeches. And if the timing is right, the superintendent confers the last diploma just as the spring peepers are rosining up their bows. The speeches are always the same. Students are urged to aim for the stars. Teachers are thanked and lauded all the way back to first grade, except for a couple of years ago when the valedictorian decided to name the teachers he thought were lazy and should retire. It sent the town into a tizzy, and the speech ended up on the internet, where it enjoyed wide circulation beyond our town. As you can imagine, people were upset and wrote letters to the editor, most of them beginning with the sentence, "If I had done that when I was a kid, I would never have been able to sit down again." I found it ironic that on an evening celebrating diligence and ambition, that people were angry when teachers who lacked both were held to account. There were several retirements announced that summer, thereby accomplishing in one speech what the principal had not seen fit to do in all his years there. Why is it that we expect diligence and ambition from our young people, but get upset when it's expected of us? At what age do we earn the right to coast, to stop improving ourselves, to say, "I have learned enough. I know everything I need to know. I am fully grown"? I was speaking with a college graduate this week and asked her, "What's next?" And she told me all her plans, and they were wonderful plans. But later that day, I was thinking how long it has been since I've been asked, "What's next?" While I once gave considerable thought to my future, to my goals and aspirations, I no longer do. Why is that? Today, I invite us to ask ourselves what we feel so free to ask our graduates. What's next? What are my plans? What are my goals? If we do have goals, if we've gotten that far, have you noticed how often we let ourselves off the hook? After Joe Sadler, my walking buddy, passed away last fall, I stopped walking every evening. It was too depressing. Everything reminded me of Joe, so I just stopped walking. But time passed, my heart healed a bit, and last week I told myself, I'm going to start walking again every day, 2 miles every evening, as I had done for years. So last Sunday, Joanne and I went for a 3-mile walk, and we were at the farm. Mission accomplished. We drove home on Monday, and I told myself, well, since I walked 3 miles the day before, that means I only have to walk 1 mile today to meet my 2-mile per day average. So I only walked 1 mile. Tuesday night rolled around. We walked a mile. And then I told Joanne, I need new walking shoes. These old shoes are hurting my heels. She said, you can do it. Let's keep walking. I said, I could get plantar fasciitis and you don't even care. That could cripple me for life. let's go to Plainfield on Wednesday and get new walking shoes. Except Wednesday came and we got busy and I never did get those shoes and I didn't walk that night either. Thursday's here. Oh, stop shaking your head, JB. I know I'm pitiful. Thursday rolls around. I'm reading an article by this guy named Craig Lonsbrough, who has a Master of Divinity degree, the exact same degree I have, but he now bills himself as a professional life coach, which means he couldn't keep his job as a pastor, so became a life coach. This is what I'm figuring. Stupid article. Someone sent it to me. I was reading it, and I kept thinking, stupid article. I don't even know why I was reading it. But then I read this sentence. If you wonder why you haven't climbed the mountain, it's probably because you've spent too much time trying to find the perfect shoes. Stupid article. That is my life exactly. I've been spending too much time looking for perfect shoes. I want to learn Spanish. I can't count the times I have wished I knew how to speak Spanish. I always find a reason not to learn it. My friends Stan and Jim have taken Spanish lessons and are now fluent. They travel to Central America. They have friends there. They're talking about retiring there. They absolutely love it there. But I keep looking for those perfect shoes. Keep waiting for everything to line up just perfectly so I can one day learn Spanish. What keeps us from what's next in our lives? We could make a query of that. What keeps us from what's next in our lives? It's a question for all of us, not just our young people. In fact, I would say as we age, it becomes an even more pressing question, because when we're young, we have time to recover from our inexperience and poor choices. We have time to recover from those. There's time to correct our missteps. But as we age, time presses upon us, doesn't it? Listening, finding, and following our purpose becomes all the more important as we age. One of my favorite stories in the Bible is a story of Eli the prophet and the young boy Samuel. Now, in the story, Eli is old and nearly blind. His children are corrupt. Something that happens sometimes, you can be a wonderful parent and do your best job, but your children will be determined to make a mess of their lives. It happens, and it happened to Eli. Samuel's parents take pity on Eli, who has no one to help him in his last years. So they arrange for their son Samuel to go stay in Eli's house and help him in his final years. It was, we gather from reading the story, a desolate time in Israel. The Bible says the word of the Lord was rare in those days. Feels kind of like today, I think, with so many folks claiming to speak for God, though it doesn't sound like any God I've ever experienced. So the word of the Lord was rare, except amidst this silence, God spoke, not to Eli, but to Samuel. I guess if the adults aren't paying attention, God will speak to a kid. So God spoke to Samuel. Samuel didn't know what to make of it. He didn't have the experience to draw upon. He didn't know what to make of it. So he woke up Eli and asked him what he should do. And Eli said, listen. Just listen. If God is speaking to you, just listen and say yes. Say that you're ready. That was the summation of Eli's experience, the culmination of his wisdom. Listen and say yes. Joanne was telling me about a podcast she was listening to this week when they were interviewing Sister Helen Prejean, who worked as a Catholic nun, worked with inmates on death row. And the interviewer asked Sister Helen, what were you thinking when you became a nun? And Sister Helen said, oh, I had it all in mind what my life would be like, that I would live in a beautiful little community where there would be peace and harmony, and we would all get along, and I would spend all of my life praying. And the interviewer said, well, how did you end up working with death row inmates? And Helen Prejean said, that was due to the sneaky Jesus. That was due to the sneaky Jesus. Now, as Christians, as friends who believe deeply in this principle of inner light, this sneaky Jesus within us, this is what we are called to, and this is what Eli is inviting Samuel into. These hidden parts within us who speak, who guide us, who lead us. People say, I don't know what to do with the rest of my life, but that isn't true. That is never true. We know what to do. We're just looking for perfect shoes, when what we need to do is listen and say yes. It isn't that we don't know what to do. We do. The prophet Micah said, God has told you what to do with your life. Carry out justice. Love mercy. Be humble. Eli said, listen and say yes. God does not call us to vocations, to this profession or that one. God calls us to lives of justice, mercy, and humility. When we say yes to those things, we have found our true calling, no matter our age.